Today we will talk about Chapter 3, Value and Ethics of Social Work Profession. Purpose of the NASW Code of Ethics serves. There are 6 purposes. Number 1, the code identifies core values on which social work's mission is based. Number 2, the code summarizes broad ethical principles that reflect the profession's core values and establishes a set of specific ethical standards that should be used to guide social work practice. Number 3, the code is designed to help social workers identify relevant consideration when process conflict or ethical uncertain areas. Number 4, the code provides ethical standards to which the public can hold the social work profession accountable. Number 5, the code socializes practitioners new to the field to social work's mission, values, ethical principles, and ethical standards. Number 6, the code further the NASW Code of Ethics does not specify which value, principles, and standards are most important and ought to outweigh others in instances when they conflict. Ethical decision-making is a process. There are many instances in social work where simple answers are not available to resolve complex ethical issues. The NASW Code of Ethics is to be used by NASW and by individual organizations and bodies. Ethical principles. The following broad ethical principles are based on social work's core values of service, social justice, dignity and worth of the person, importance of human relationship, integrity and competence. Value serves ethical principles. Social work's primary goals is to help people in need and to address social problems. Values social justice, ethical principles. Social worker challenge social injustice. Social work pursue social change. Ethical principles, values, dignity and worth of the person. Ethical principles. Social works respect the inherent dignity and worth of the person. Values, importance of human relationship. Ethical principles. Social workers recognize the central importance of human relationship. Social workers understand that relationships between and among people are an important vehicle for change. Value integrity, ethical principle, social worker behave in a trustworthy manner. Value, competence, ethical principles. Social workers practice within their areas of competence, develop and enhance their professional expertise. Ethical principles, commitment to client. Social worker primary responsibility is to promote the well-being of clients. In general, clients' interests are primary. Self-determination. Social workers respect and promote the right of clients to self-determination and assist clients in their efforts to identify and clarify their goals. Informed consent. Social work should provide service to clients only in the context of the professional relationship based when appropriate. In instance when clients are not literate or have difficult understanding the primary language used in practice setting, social workers should take steps to ensure client comprehension. In instance when clients lack the capacity to provide informed consent, social worker should protect client. In instance when clients are receiving service involuntarily, social workers should provide service via electronic media. Social workers should obtain client informed consent before audio taping or video taping clients or permitting observation of service to client by the third party. Competence. Social workers should provide service and represent themselves as competent only within the boundaries of their education. Cultural competence and social diversity. Social workers should understand culture and its function in human behavior and society. Social workers should have a knowledge base of their client cultures and be able to demonstrate competence in the provision of services that are sensitive to client culture and to difference among people and culture groups. Social workers should obtain education about and seek to understand the nature of social diversity. Conflicts of interest. Social workers should be alert to and avoid conflicts of interest that interfere with the exercise of professional discretion and impartial judgment. Social workers should not take unfair advantage of any professional relationship or exploit others to further their personal, religious, political, or business interests. Social workers should not engage in dual privacy and confidentiality. Social workers should respect client right to privacy. Social workers shouldn't solicit private information from clients unless it is essential to providing service or conducting social work evaluation or research. Social worker may disclose confidential information when appropriate with valid consent from a client or a person legally authorized to consent on behalf of a client. Or social work should protect the confidentiality of all information obtained in the course of professional service, except for compelling professional reasons. Social workers should inform clients to the possible about the disclosure of confidential information and the potential consequence. Social workers should discuss with client and other interested parties the nature of confidentiality and limitation of clients' right to confidentiality. When social workers provide counseling service to families, couples, or groups, social workers should seek agreement among the parties involved concerning each individual's rights to confidentiality and obligation to preserve the confidentiality of information shared by others. Social workers should inform clients involved in family, couples, marital, or groups counseling of social workers, employers, and agencies policy concerning the social worker disclosure of confidential information among the parties involved in the counseling. Social workers should not disclose confidential information to third-party parties unless clients have authorized such disclosure. Social workers should not discuss confidential information in any setting unless privacy can be ensured. Social workers should protect the confidentiality of clients during legal proceeding to the extent permitted by law. Social workers should protect the confidentiality of clients when responding to requests from members of the media. Social workers should protect the confidentiality of clients' written and electronic records and other sensitive information. Social workers should take precaution to maintain the confidentiality of information transmitted to other parties through the use computers, electronics, emails or mail, fax mail machine, telephones and telephone answering machine, and other electronic or computer technology disclosed or identifying information should be avoided whenever possible. Social workers should transfer or dispose of client recorders in a manner that protects clients confidentially and is consistent with state statutes governing records and social work license. Social work should take responsible precaution to protect client confidentiality in the event of social workers terminations of practice, incapacitation or death. Social workers should not disclose identifying information when discussing client for teaching or training purposes unless the client has consented to disclose of confidential information. Social workers should not disclose identifying information when discussing client with consultation unless the client has consented to disclose of confidential information or there is a compelling need for such disclosure. Social workers should protect the confidentiality of disclosed client consistent with the preceding standards. Access to records. Social workers should provide client with reasonable access to records concerning the client. When providing client with access to their records, social workers should take steps to protect the confidentiality of other individuals identified or discussed in such records. Payment for service. When setting fees, social workers should ensure that the fees are fair, reasonable, and commensurate with the service performed. Considerations should be given to clients' ability to pay. Social workers should avoid accepting goods or service from clients as payment for professional service. Social workers should not solicit a private fee or other remunerations for providing service to clients who are entitled to such available service through the social worker's employer or agency. Termination of service. Social workers should terminate service to client and the professional relationship with them when such service and relationship are no longer required or no longer serves the client needs or interests. Social workers should take reasonable steps to avoid abandon clients who are still in need of service. Social workers should withdraw service precipitously only under unusual circumstances. Social workers in fee for service setting may terminate service to clients who are not paying an overdue balance if the financial contractual arrangements have been made clear to the client. Social worker should not terminate service to pursue a social, financial, or sexual relation with the client. Social workers who anticipate the termination or interruption of service to client should client promptly and seek the transfer of continuation of service in relation to the needs and preference. Social workers who are leaving an employment setting should inform client of options for the continuation of service and benefits and risks of the options. Confidentiality. Social workers should respect confidential information shared by colleagues in the course of their professional relationship and transactions. Interdisciplinary collaboration. Social workers who are members interdisciplinary team should participate, contribute to discussions that affect the whole client by drawing on the perspectives, values, and experiences of the social work process, professional and ethical obligations. Interdisciplinary team as a whole and individual members should be clearly established. Social workers for whom a team decision raises ethical considers should attempt to resolve disagreement through appropriate channels. Disputes involving colleagues. Social workers should not take advantage of dispute between a colleague and an employer to obtain a position or otherwise advance the social worker's own interests. Social workers should not exploit clients in dispute with colleagues or engage client in any inappropriate discussion of conflict between social workers and their colleagues. Conclusions. Social workers should seek the advice and counsels of colleagues whenever such consultation is in USA best interests of clients. Social workers should keep themselves into about colleagues' areas of expertise, themselves informed competence. When counseling with colleagues about client, social workers should disclose the least amount of information necessary to achieve the purposes of the consultation.